Welcome to Telesur. This is another edition of From the South, from our studios in Caracas, Venezuela. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Let's begin with our top news. We begin in Peru, where the judiciary has decided to grant Keiko Fujimori a provisional release. Judges have accepted the appeal filed by the leader of the Popular Force Party. She was arrested on corruption charges 1 week ago. Keiko is being investigated for money laundering linked to the Brazilian construction company Odebrecht. President Martín Vizcarra in Peru has accepted the resignation of his Interior Minister Mauro Medina. This after the dismissed Supreme Court Judge César Inostroza fled to Spain. Inostroza is considered to be the head of a large corruption network in the judiciary. He was under a pretrial detention order. President Vizcarra says he will continue fighting corruption. Our correspondent Jaime Herrera was at a march against corruption in Lima.
People have gathered in this square as a protest against corruption. They are also protesting against Congress as they say their members protect different public figures linked to corruption and their lack of action to detain the leaders of criminal organizations, White Neck. Demonstrators are also waiting for the resolution of Keiko Fujimori appeal. She is being investigated for creating a criminal network and for money laundering.
That was Jaime Herrera from Peru. One person has been shot dead during protests in Haiti. The shooting occurred in Port-au-Prince as hundreds of people protested in favor of an investigation into an oil corruption scandal in Petrocaribe. Police officers are said to have fired live ammunition as protesters threw rocks at them. Social movements and political organizations want authorities to be held accountable for these violent protests. Prime Minister Jean-Henri Enseant has called on people to remain calm. Let's go to our correspondent in Port-au-Prince, Daisy Toussaint, with more details.
Opposition leaders and social organizations have taken to the streets to protest against the embezzlement of public funds. Demonstrators want to pressure the government to carry an investigation into the corruption allegation and charge those responsible. They have also asked the police to avoid provoking protesters and not to create violence. On their part, social organizations said the government is to blame for the death of a person during the demonstration. But police members said they will not tolerate any acts of violence and explained that all their measures secure the country. Prime Minister Jean-Henri Enseant has called on people to remain calm and trust the government.
That was Daisy Toussaint from Haiti. The caravan of migrants heading to the United States from Honduras says no threats can stop them. Reportedly, 3,000 migrants have reached Guatemala, where authorities are trying to stop them. Many have even started to ask truck drivers to take them as they make their way towards Mexico. These migrants say they can no longer tolerate the violence and poverty back in Honduras. On one of the banners that they are carrying, it says, "We are not leaving, they are kicking us out." According to the World Bank, 64% of the Honduran population lives in poverty. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to cut all aid to Honduras if it doesn't halt the caravan. Our correspondent in Guatemala, Mario Rosales, has more.
We are on the way to the department of Zacapa, where hundreds of Honduran migrants continue moving in towards Guatemala City in order to get to the Mexican border. Some of them said they fear the police will try to stop them. For this reason, some groups separated from the main caravan so they could spread out and avoid getting caught. Last night, around 600 Honduran migrants arrived to the capital city. They say the caravan will continue their journey to cross the Mexican border in order to get to the United States.
That was Mario Rosales from Guatemala City. The president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, says this caravan was organized by the opposition to undermine his government.
The governments of Mexico, Guatemala and the United States have announced they will apply their immigration laws and further norms in line with their sovereignty. Hondurans should not get involved in this political game because it is inhumane. It is to be condemned. Today, the migrants are in danger. I cannot understand how somebody could use the misery of the people for political ends, risking their lives with children, with the elderly. This should not happen. This should not be allowed under the basic principles of human dignity.
But the people that are marching on this caravan tell a different story from the president.
Juan Orlando Hernandez is only asking for a return because he will lose U.S. funding. He won't be able to ride around in private helicopters or expensive cars anymore. We will not return. Juan Orlando Hernandez, I am not a leader. I am part of the people. And if I have to die for them, I will. We will fight our way north if we have to. Now, we only ask the Mexican government to let us through.
As this caravan moves forward, Mexican police are being deployed to the country's southern border. Police said their intention was not to prevent migrants from coming into Mexico, but to aid the National Institute of Migration. According to government officials, these measures are taken in order to maintain order and guarantee migrants' human rights. They have also said that those who fulfill all migration requirements will be prioritized. Moving on to Costa Rica, where the Supreme Court has rejected the tax reform approved by the Legislative Assembly 10 days ago. The judiciary has asked lawmakers to modify 4 items in the reform. Now the Assembly can either comply with the Supreme Court's decision or keep the bill as it is. This reform was approved in a first debate with 35 votes. People have protested over this reform for now a month. Venezuelan Communications Minister Jorge Rodriguez says new suspects have been arrested regarding the failed assassination attempt against President Nicolás Maduro.
There is no doubt, thanks to confessions of those questioned in the assassination attempt against President Nicolás Maduro, that Julio Borges participated and is protected by the government of Colombia. We want to announce the arrest of Mr. Osvaldo Gabriel Castillo Lunar, alias El Capi. This 25-year-old was recruited for training in Colombia to assassinate President Maduro.
We have more stories after this break, but meanwhile you can follow us. We're on Twitter at Telesur English and my account at Carla G. Telesur. So give us a tweet, send us some hearts and retweets as well. We'll be back. Welcome back. University students in Colombia are mobilizing to protest the education budget. Let's hear from our correspondent, Paola Fernández in Bogotá.
Students are about to start their strike in many different cities across the country. I want you to meet Professor Adolfo Arteortua, who's been on hunger strike since yesterday. Professor, tell us what message you are trying to send.
We are 3 of us across Colombia who are on hunger strike. We do this as a show of solidarity and love for our students, who are fighting for better public education.
Do you fully support students' protests?
Yes, I respect and support them. They know more than anyone how much we need a substantial budgetary allocation.
Students from every region in the country have come to Bogotá to mobilize.
Was Paola Fernández from Colombia. 2 Peruvian journalists are being sued for defamation by an archbishop whom they accuse of taking part in a sexual abuse cover-up. Journalists Paola Ugaz and Pedro Salinas have been sued by the Archbishop of Piura. If found guilty, they could face up to 3 years in prison and a $60,000 fine.
This is a reprisal. This is vengeance from one of the members of the elite Catholic society against the 2 journalists that investigated and uncovered this Pandora's box.
Archbishop Eguren's attitude in terms of his peers in the church is contradictory and really striking, because doing this is clearly going against what Pope Francis has proposed.
And days before the election in Brazil, a citizen alliance managed to remove a number of fake news articles from various social media sites. Supporters of far-right presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro are accused of spreading false stories.
The Supreme Electoral Court has ruled that fake news shared on social media by Carlos Bolsonaro, son of one of Brazil's presidential candidates, be scrubbed from social media. Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad welcomed the court's decision.
This was a years-long battle that we finally managed to win, and I can only hope the press will spread this news, just like their lies were spread to people who didn't know better.
Amid the wave of fake news about Fernando Haddad being spread on social media platforms such as WhatsApp, Jair Bolsonaro has refused to take part in any electoral debate, to even explain his government plan. In the latest polls, Bolsonaro's approval rating continues to rise as Haddad's drops.
What is at play here is the very fight for our rights, of choosing our leaders. We have 10 days to turn things around, to show the Brazilian people who Jair Bolsonaro really is, to unmask him once and for all.
A 15-person team from digital strategy agency AM4 is responsible for spreading Bolsonaro-related content in over 1,500 WhatsApp groups, which is then spread further by members of those groups. On top of this, Bolsonaro is also shielded from any media scrutiny, thanks to the support of Record TV, the second-largest TV channel in Brazil. People opposing totalitarianism are ready to stand against media corporations.
We must reach out to the people to clarify what's really happening in our country. We must unmask the underground lies that are affecting these elections. We must unmask the candidate who positions himself as a savior but is actually a violent, lying coward. He's not the person who should lead Brazil.
Outside of the virtual world and TV screens, protesters take to the streets under the LA Now slogan. In these same streets, artists have paid homage to the message of Pink Floyd frontman Roger Waters, who recently warned Brazilians about the risks of neo-fascism.
The wall represents a division amongst ourselves that causes us to quarrel and turn on each other. The powers that be are influencing division in society. Fake news and media manipulation are leading common citizens to fight with their own neighbors.
By request of Rosa Weber, president of the Supreme Electoral Court, representatives from the Workers' Party and the Social Liberal Party were called to a meeting to discuss these issues. But at the last minute, Bolsonaro's committee asked for it to be postponed.
Let's head to Bolivia, where the country is paying tribute to the victims of the October massacre, a repressive military action which left over 60 people dead. 15 years ago, social movements took to the streets to reject the government of Gonzalo Sánchez de Lozada. They were repressed for defending the sovereignty of Bolivia's natural resources. Sánchez de Lozada fled to the United States. Also in Bolivia, quinoa is fast becoming a great asset in the global fight against hunger and malnutrition. Suppliers must now meet the soaring demand for this food.
Quinoa is a grain-like crop grown for its edible seeds. In Bolivia and in many other countries around the world, it's been dubbed the golden food because of its high nutritional content. Compared to other grains, it's higher in protein, provides energy, fiber, and many vitamins and minerals. No wonder it's considered a superfood.
What self-respecting supermarket does not have a bag of quinoa on its shelves? This product that comes from Andean nations is helping achieve the global goal for eradicating hunger.
The Bolivian government declared 2013 as the International Year of the Quinoa, as a way to encourage consumption and to boost production.
5 to 10 years ago, only about 20 countries actually even care about quinoa. Now, there are over 100 countries looking into it. We, as a country, can also be proud of the way we managed to develop methods of growing quinoa crops in different climates.
The campaign for greater use of quinoa started at home in Bolivia. Ever since the government started its promotional thrust, sales have doubled.
In 2010, the average production per capita was about 1 kilogram of quinoa. Now it's over 2 kilograms. This means that Bolivians are increasing their own use of the seed. We now fully recognize how good it is for health.
One of quinoa's best features is how easily it can adapt to different climates and different soil types. In Bolivia, producers are proud to say that the best quinoa in the planet comes from right here, the shores of the Uyuni salt flats.
Workers of a museum in Argentina that presented the history of the Malvinas Islands are denouncing that the government of Mauricio Macri wants to close it.
Asuncion works in the Malvinas Museum as a guide. She and her co-workers are worried that the museum is being emptied of its contents and its closure is imminent.
We will leave it with a lot of sadness, but not without a fight as we have organized ourselves. We will defend the cause and the rights of the workers.
People from all walks of life, including soldiers, have come together to launch June 10th to try and keep the museum and the cause alive.
Macri can see this museum is a center of the resistance. He tried to make changes here. When school came to visit the museum, they found workers committed to the Malvinas cause. We don't deny this museum was created in a period of history when popular leaders from the region fought for the defense of Malvinas.
As time goes by, the cause is not forgotten. People are collectively standing up to the government for giving away the island's natural resources to the UK.
This government does not support sovereignty. They are working in favor of commercial interests that don't benefit people or the country.
I thought we would progress as we did with the last government, but it didn't work out like that. They betrayed us, and we are going backwards.
Wounds are still fresh, and there are some things that are non-negotiable. The decision to disregard so easily the history behind the island and to sign an agreement with the UK is one of them.
It's worrying that the claim to sovereignty doesn't have strength, because since the return to democracy, Argentina has received a lot of support from international bodies, especially from UN. This support meant that the UK was isolated.
People are worried that Latin America is losing to neocolonialism. The Argentines won't forget the Malvinas cause.
Now let's talk about sports. Russian athlete Daria Trubnikova has won the gold medal in rhythmic gymnastics at the Youth Olympic Games in Argentina. 15-year-old Trubnikova won the ball, clubs, and ribbon competition with a score of 69,400. Ukraine's Cristina Poranichna was second, while Talisa Torretti from Italy took bronze. The Youth Olympic Games brings together the world's best young athletes. In Mexico, a traditional game played with a ball on fire is helping kids stay away from crime and street violence. To play pelota purepecha, they have to hit a fiery ball through the air with sticks, similar to hockey. For players in Iztapalapa, an area of Mexico City with one of the highest crime rates, it helps them stay off trouble. The game dates back to pre-Hispanic times as depicted in murals in the ancient city of Teotihuacan. We'll take one last short break, but stay with us. Welcome back. People in the West Bank have protested against the demolition of a village. One man has been injured by Israeli security forces. He had to be carried to an ambulance as the vehicle was not allowed to enter the village. Israeli forces also used pepper spray against another protester after he questioned the Border Patrol police why they were arresting a teenage Palestinian girl. Police investigators have searched the residence of the Saudi consul in Turkey. Using drones and UV lights, they searched the premises for several hours. This as part of the investigations regarding the disappearance of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi was last seen on October 2nd entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. People in Russia have paid their respect to the victims of an attack in Crimea. They left flowers and candles in the memory of at least 19 people who were killed in a mass shooting at the Technical College in the city of Kerch. The investigative committee has identified the attacker as an 18-year-old student who was attending the same institution. He is suspected of setting off a bomb in the cafeteria and shooting at random before killing himself.
So 2-3 minutes before the explosion, I left the first building. I was opening the door, I heard the explosion. I turned away, and I heard a shooting. Then it was panic. What followed is unknown.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed his condolences for the victims of this attack.
I would like to express condolences to relatives of those who died, and express hope that victims will recover as soon as possible. And we will do everything possible for this. People will be informed about the results of the work of law enforcement bodies and special services. Dear friends, in commemoration of those who died, I ask to pay respect to them with a moment of silence.
Sudan has appointed a new peace envoy to South Sudan to follow the implementation of the peace deal between the two countries. Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir is hopeful that peace can be achieved in the region. South Sudan has been engulfed by conflict since 2011, when it won independence from its northern neighbor.
Peace in Sudan cannot be separated from peace in the region, and achieving peace in South Sudan is a big step towards a comprehensive and final peace in Sudan.
In Ethiopia, the new cabinet of ministers has been sworn in. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has unveiled a cabinet where half of the members are women. The new government includes a newly created Ministry of Peace. Ethiopia is now the second African nation after Rwanda to achieve gender parity in its cabinet. Madagascar national football team has qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time in history. Striker Rakoto Hari Malala is the country's hero as he scored the 1-0 victory against Equatorial Guinea. After the game, the team had a meeting with fans to celebrate and also to rest. The African Cup of Nations will be celebrated next summer in Cameroon. 6 vaquitas have been spotted in Mexico's Gulf of California, giving hope for a comeback of this endangered species. According to experts, the group was a mother and her offsprings. The vaquita is the world's smallest porpoise. Its population has declined by over 90% in just 20 years. Russian wakeboarder Nikita Martyanov has taken extreme sports to a new peak when he rode across icebergs in Greenland. He wakeboarded in one of the harshest and coldest places on the planet, where water temperature is often 0 degrees Celsius. His original vessel for the ride broke down, but his crew managed to get a 60-year-old wooden research boat for this adventure. And that brings us to the end of this news brief. But this and other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. Here you can find all our latest information on all the stories that we've touched upon today, so go check it out. And be sure to also follow us on social media. I'm Carla Gonzalez, and until the next time, thank you for watching Telesur. We're connecting the Global South.